Hey Rebel Riser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. And thank you especially to the patrons who help make this possible for you every single day with their support at patreon.com/SW7x7. All right, we're continuing to stay away from Acolyte spoilers in the podcast, and also just me personally in general. I've stopped looking at Acolyte stuff because it's too much, and it's coming out tomorrow. So yeah, I think I can last for another 24 hours. But for the podcast here, we're going to finish talking about Tales of the Empire, and in specific, we're going to talk about The Way Out, which is the last of the 3 Barriss episodes in this little mini-series. And we'll do this using our modified 7 takeaway breakdown format. We'll start off as we usually do with where in the timeline this is happening. According to Wikipedia, this is happening sometime between 9 BBY and 0 BBY. They're saying this takes place after the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and I guess I didn't see in there, like I was looking to try and figure out what exactly they're using to say, oh, we know this absolutely has to happen after the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I'm not quite seeing it in there, so if I've just missed something then, and you happen to catch it, then yeah, let me know in a comment. We do know from Barriss herself that it has been a long time since the events of Realization, because she used to be an Inquisitor for a brief period of time, but then she left that behind. And so now she is in some remote location about as far off the grid as you can possibly get, but still acting as a healer and still, I guess, well known enough around the community of whatever's going on this very snowy planet that people know to come to her. And that is our second takeaway, that Barriss is hiding out in what seems to be a very remote, off-the-grid location, but she's not entirely disconnected from the wider galaxy, because there is a ship that she has stashed, and there are navicomputer coordinates to somebody that she identifies as an old friend. So maybe she has been able to get around a bit, but it does seem like she's keeping base camp here. In the meantime, for our third takeaway, Lyn Rakish, who is the 4th sister, has continued in the Inquisitorius and is doing what all these awful Inquisitorius folks like to do, which is hunt down Force-sensitive kids. It's what we saw in the Bad Batch, and it is still happening under the Inquisitorius. And the child that gets brought to Barriss, the healer, has nothing wrong with him or her or them, but there is something that has caught the Empire's attention, and Barriss says, yeah, you were right to get this kid out of there, because they would have taken the kid, and who knows what bad things would have happened. So Barriss tells her attendants to take this mother and father with their baby and get them to safety with those nav computer coordinates to the old friend, as the 4th sister starts approaching on foot very dramatically where Barriss has been hiding for these many years. And for a fourth takeaway, it is interesting to see that Barriss, I guess, has been practicing her Jedi skills at some level, because of the way that she's able to dodge the attacks that the 4th sister throws at her, and to do so skillfully and calmly. At this point, we're meeting a Barriss who is probably essentially a Jedi Master for all intents and purposes. But she knows that she's not really the target of Lyn, it's the Force-sensitive kid, and so Barriss says, oh yeah, I was just giving them a head start, you can go after them now if you want, but it's going to be dangerous. And the 4th sister says, yeah, after I deal with them, I'll come back with you. I'll come back and deal with you. But for our fifth takeaway, we'll talk about the phrase "the way out," which is of course the title of the episode, but it is brought up with a couple of different meanings in the episode. Barriss warns the 4th sister that if she goes into this cave complex where she has sent this mother and father with their baby and the attendants, that the 4th sister is not going to be able to find her way out. Like, the warning's given, the warning is not heeded, and of course it turns out to be exactly accurate. But the way out also serves as a metaphor for Lyn, because Barriss keeps referring to the 4th sister as Lyn, being able to not only leave the Empire, but also to leave the path of the dark side as well. And Lyn says, yeah, there's no way out, and Barriss says that's just what they want you to think. But the circumstances themselves are very tragic, as Barriss goes in to help Lyn find her way back out, but unfortunately and seemingly accidentally gets stabbed by Lyn. And so For our sixth takeaway, we'll just flag the fact that we don't know for sure if Barriss dies in this episode. However, the audio description says that Lyn is seen carrying Barriss's body outside of that cave complex. And it's one thing to say that you're carrying Barriss out, right? That seems to imply that Barriss could be alive or dead, but probably alive. Whereas if you're carrying Barriss's body, you kind of only refer to a body as a dead body, right? And so I think Barriss might be dead based on the audio description of things. But yeah, until we get the medical examiner's report in Star Wars, we don't necessarily know for sure. So unfortunately, the question has to remain that Barriss may or may not be alive. It's a Schrodinger's Jedi kind of situation. And for a seventh and final takeaway, just a couple of notes on voice actors. So we have Steve Blum, who played Zeb in Rebels, back. We also have Anna Graves, who's the voice of the Duchess Satine in the Clone Wars, and also the Bounty Hunter Sugi. So it's great to see some very familiar names, but there are also a couple of not quite as familiar names who are also fun Star Wars voice actors too, including Susie McGrath, who also appeared in the first episode of Tales of the Empire, the first Morgan Elsbeth episode, and she was the voice of Tamra Vora in Star Wars Resistance, and there's another Resistance voice actor, Keston John, who also shows up in this episode as well. And that's what I've got for you for a 7 takeaway breakdown on The Way Out, which is the last of the Barriss episodes for Tales of the Empire, the last of all the Tales of the Empire episodes, and that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. If you enjoy the show, if you enjoyed this daily dose of Star Wars joy, please share it. Help me get it out to more people. I would really appreciate that. You can do that simply with ratings and reviews if you haven't done that already, or just telling people you know in person and online, telling algorithms with the likes and subscribes and the follows and the joins and the comments. And if you want to be a part of helping get this daily dose of Star Wars joy out around the world, it's been downloaded in more than 160 countries across the nearly 10 years of the show. You can learn more about that at patreon.com/SW7x7. Every little bit helps, and it would mean the world to me if you'd consider it. And it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the podcast, as always. And may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.